My poker group suspected someone was signaling for 6 months, and when we finally switched to a new host's house, everything became clear. We'd been playing together every Thursday night for 3 years. Same 6 guys. Same buy-in of $100 each. Same host. My friend Blake's apartment downtown in a converted warehouse building with exposed brick and high ceilings. Blake was good. Maybe too good. The game had started back in 2020 during the pandemic, when we were all desperate for something normal, something social. We'd known each other from various points in our lives. College, work, mutual friends, and poker became our weekly escape, our Thursday night ritual. For the first 2 years, we all won and lost pretty evenly. That's how poker works when everyone's at roughly the same skill level. Some nights you're up, some nights you're down, but over time it balances out. You make your plays, you read your opponents, you take your chances. Blake would win some weeks, I'd win others. Owen had his hot streaks. So did Mitchell, Carlos, and Tyler. We weren't professional players, we were hobbyists. Guys in our 30s who liked the strategy and competition and the excuse to drink beer and talk trash for 4 hours every week. Blake worked in marketing. I'm an accountant. Owen does cybersecurity. Mitchell's a teacher. Carlos manages a restaurant. Tyler's in construction. Normal guys with normal jobs and normal lives. Except it stopped balancing out. Starting about 6 months ago, right around March of last year, Blake started winning. Not every game, but most games. And when he won big. He'd walk away with $300, $400, sometimes $500 on a single night. Meanwhile, the rest of us were grinding it out, fighting over scraps, trying to break even. At first, I didn't think much of it. Poker has variance. Sometimes you catch good cards for a few weeks straight. Sometimes you go on a heater where every decision you make works out perfectly. Every bluff gets through. Every value bet gets called. It happens to everyone eventually. But 6 months isn't a few weeks. 6 months is a pattern. I'm an accountant by trade, so numbers are my thing. I'd been casually tracking our poker results since we started playing, just for fun. But around May, I started looking at the data more carefully. I wanted to see how my win rate compared to everyone else's, where I was making mistakes, which players I did best against, what times of night I played better or worse. What I found was deeply concerning. Over 24 games from March through August, Blake had won 18 times, 18 out of 24. That's a 75% win rate in a 6-player game where, theoretically, everyone should win about 16.7% of the time if skill levels are equal. He'd taken home about $4,000 more than he'd put in over those 6 months. The rest of us were all losing. I was down $740. Owen was down $820. Mitchell was down $650. Carlos, $710. Tyler, $890. The numbers varied slightly, but the pattern was clear. Blake was the only one consistently winning, and the rest of us were funding his winnings. I ran the numbers through a poker variance calculator I found online. I input our game structure, $100 buy-in, 6 players, typical tournament payout structure, and asked it to calculate the probability of someone winning 18 out of 24 games purely by chance. The result came back, less than 1%. Less than 1%. Either Blake had suddenly become a world-class poker player, which seemed unlikely given that his skill level had been consistent for 2 years, or something else was going on. Someone else noticed too. After one particularly brutal night in late August where Blake took $800 off the table, a night where he seemed to know exactly when to push and when to fold, making hero calls that shouldn't have worked but did, my friend Owen pulled me aside in the parking lot. Owen worked in cybersecurity. He was the most paranoid person I knew, always assuming someone was trying to hack something or exploit some vulnerability. But he was also smart, methodical, and not prone to wild accusations without evidence. "Something's off," he said, leaning against his car. It was nearly midnight, and the parking lot was empty except for the 2 of us. "I know. You think he's cheating?" The word hung in the air between us. Cheating. It felt wrong to even say it out loud. This wasn't some random online game or a casino where cheating happens all the time. This was our friend, our weekly poker buddy, a guy we trusted. Blake was a friend. We'd known each other since college, had been in each other's weddings. I'd helped him move 3 times. He'd loaned me his car when mine was in the shop for 2 weeks. We'd taken a road trip to Vegas together 2 years ago and split a hotel room, but the numbers didn't lie. "I don't know how he would," I said carefully. "We use his cards, but we check them every night before we play. No marks, no bends, no patterns. We shuffle ourselves. We cut the deck. We rotate who deals. We do everything right. We follow all the protocols." "What about his girlfriend?" The question hit me like a punch to the gut. Blake's girlfriend, Stephanie, had moved in with him about 7 months ago, right around February, which was right around when Blake's winning streak started. I'd never made that connection before. Stephanie was usually home during our games. She'd stay in the bedroom, supposedly reading or watching TV or working on her laptop. Blake had explained early on that she liked to give us our space, didn't want to intrude on guys' night. We'd all thought it was considerate of her, but her presence had always felt a little odd to me. Not threatening or suspicious exactly, just aware. Like she was paying attention to something even when she wasn't in the room with us. She'd come out occasionally to grab something from the kitchen. Water, snacks, whatever. She'd always walk past our table on the way. Sometimes she'd linger for a few seconds, watching the game. Sometimes she'd ask Blake if he wanted anything. Sometimes she'd just walk through silently and not say a word. "You think she's signaling him?" Owen asked. The thought made my stomach turn. If Blake was cheating, it wasn't just about the money. $4,000 over 6 months wasn't going to change anyone's life. It was about trust. It was about looking your friends in the eye week after week while systematically robbing them. It was about inviting people into your home and betraying them in the most calculated way possible. How would she signal? I asked. We'd notice if she was standing there watching our cards. We'd see her. We're not idiots. Maybe she's not obvious about it. Maybe she's doing something subtle. Hand signals when she walks by. Coughing patterns. Scratching her nose. Something we wouldn't pick up on unless we were specifically looking for it. Owen pulled out his phone and started taking notes, his fingers flying over the screen. Next week, we pay attention. We watch her every single time she comes out of that bedroom. We look for patterns. We document everything. Okay? And don't tell anyone else yet. Not until we know for sure. If we're wrong, this could destroy our friendship with Blake. We need to be certain. I agreed. We started paying attention. The next Thursday, August 31st, I positioned myself at the table so I had a clear view of the bedroom door. I brought a small notepad and kept it on my lap under the table. Every time Stephanie came out, I'd jot down the time and what happened. 8:15 p.m. Stephanie came out to get water from the kitchen, walked past the table slowly, glanced at the cards, or at least seemed to, didn't say anything, filled her water glass and went back to the bedroom. Blake won the hand with a pair of 10s. Nothing remarkable about the hand itself. 8:47 p.m. Came out again. This time she asked Blake if he wanted another beer. He said yes. She brought him one from the fridge, walking slowly past the table again. Her eyes definitely lingered on the cards this time. I was holding ace-king. Mitchell had pocket jacks. The flop came down queen 10-7. Blake bet big. Mitchell called. I folded. Blake won with a pair of queens. Again, nothing impossible. But Mitchell later told me he thought Blake's bet sizing was weird for top pair. 9:23 p.m. Bathroom run. Quick walk through, no lingering. Blake folded pre-flop that hand. 10:05 p.m. Kitchen again, this time for a snack. Stood near the table for maybe 10 seconds, pretending to look at her phone. Blake 3-bet all in. Carlos called with pocket kings. Blake showed pocket aces. Carlos was eliminated. 10:41 p.m. Bedroom door opened briefly. Stephanie poked her head out. Didn't come all the way into the room. Said, "Good night, babe," to Blake. Blake nodded. That hand, Blake folded to Tyler's raise. I couldn't see any obvious pattern. No hand signals that I could detect. No coughing codes. No scratching patterns. Nothing that screamed, "We're cheating." But Blake won that night too. Took home $420. After everyone left, Owen and I compared notes in the parking lot. He'd been watching too, from a different angle. "I don't see how she could be signaling," Owen said, scrolling through his notes. "She's not making any obvious gestures. Her patterns seem random. Sometimes she comes out during big hands, sometimes during small hands. Sometimes Blake wins after she walks by, sometimes he doesn't. Maybe we're wrong," I said. "Maybe he's just been running hot. For 6 months? Variance can be weird." Owen shook his head. "No, something's happening. We're just not seeing it yet." We kept watching. Week after week. September rolled into October. Blake kept winning. We kept taking notes, and we still couldn't figure out how he was doing it. The breakthrough came from Mitchell, of all people. Mitchell was a high school math teacher, quiet and analytical. He didn't talk much during games, just played his cards and drank his beer and went home. But he was observant, always had been. After a game in mid-October where Blake had won again, this time taking 380, Mitchell pulled Owen and me aside. "I think I know what they're doing," he said. We waited. "It's not about when Stephanie comes out. It's about where she is when we're playing." "What do you mean? Have you ever noticed that Blake always sits in the same spot? Every single week. Same chair, same position at the table. And we all kind of sit in the same spots too, right? We're creatures of habit." I thought about it. He was right. I always sat to Blake's left. Owen sat across from Blake. Mitchell, Carlos, and Tyler filled in the other spots, but we generally kept the same configuration week after week. "So what?" Owen asked. "So think about the layout of Blake's apartment. Where's his bedroom in relation to where we sit?" I pictured it in my mind. Blake's apartment was a studio layout, technically, but he'd used furniture to create separate spaces. The bedroom area was in the back corner, separated from the main living space by a partial wall and a curtain. The poker table was set up in the living area, about 15 feet from the bedroom. "The bedroom is behind Blake," I said slowly. "Right, behind Blake, which means if Stephanie is in the bedroom, Blake's back is to her, but the rest of us are facing in her general direction." "She's not standing there watching, though," Owen said. "We'd see her." Would we? Mitchell asked. Think about where you're looking during a hand. You're looking at your cards. You're looking at the other players. You're looking at the board. You're reading tells. Are you really paying attention to what's happening 15 feet behind Blake in a darkened bedroom? My mouth went dry. You think she's watching from the bedroom, I said. I think she might be. But there's one problem with that theory. She can't see our cards from that angle. The bedroom is too far away and we hold our cards close. So how? Then Owen got it. His eyes widened. The mirror, he said. We all turned to look at Blake's apartment building, though of course we couldn't see inside from the parking lot. What mirror? I asked. That big decorative mirror on the wall, the one behind where you sit. I've noticed it before but never thought about it. It's huge, like 4 feet wide, one of those trendy brass-framed things. My blood ran cold. I could picture it now. The mirror hung on the wall about 3 feet behind my usual seat. I'd seen it 100 times but never paid attention to it. It was just decor, just part of Blake's apartment aesthetic. But if Stephanie was in the bedroom, looking out through the crack in the door, she'd have a direct line of sight to that mirror. And in that mirror, she'd be able to see the cards of anyone sitting in front of it. We need to check, I said. Check what? Mitchell asked. Photos. We've taken photos during poker night before, right? Group shots, big hands, that kind of thing. Let's see if we can see the bedroom door in any of them. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through my camera roll. I had dozens of photos from poker nights. Most were just shots of the table, the chips, the cards, but a few were wider angles that captured more of the room. I found one from July, a group photo someone had taken of all 6 of us at the table. The photo was taken from the kitchen area, shooting back toward the table. And there, in the background, barely visible, the bedroom door, cracked open, just a few inches. In the darkness behind that crack, you could see a faint glow, phone screen probably. And if you looked very carefully, you could make out a shape. Someone sitting or standing just inside the doorway. Stephanie. I showed the photo to Owen and Mitchell. Neither of them said anything for a long moment. We need more evidence, Owen finally said. One photo isn't enough. We need to prove she can actually see the cards from that angle. How do we do that? We test it, but not during a real game. We need to go to Blake's apartment when he's not there and test the sightlines, figure out exactly what Stephanie can see from the bedroom. Blake's not just going to let us into his apartment to investigate him, Mitchell pointed out. No, but we can suggest switching locations. See what happens when we play somewhere else. That's how we ended up proposing the rotation. 3 days later, during a group text about Thursday's game, Owen casually threw out the suggestion. Hey guys, my wife is out of town next week visiting her sister. Want to play at my place for a change? We can spread out more, use my dining room table instead of the card table. There was a pause in the group chat. Then Tyler and Carlos both said, sure, sounds good. Mitchell said he was in. I said, yeah, let's do it. Blake took 5 minutes to respond. My place works fine. We've got the setup down. Come on, man, Owen typed. We've been at your place every week for 3 years. Let's change it up. See how the other half lives, lol. Another pause. Fine. Yeah. Okay. But I could feel the hesitation even through text. The next Thursday, September 21st, we gathered at Owen's house. It was in a suburban neighborhood, a 3-bedroom ranch with a big dining room and plenty of space. Owen's wife had indeed gone to visit her sister, so we had the place to ourselves. Same 6 guys, same cards. We brought Blake's deck just to eliminate that variable. Same buy-in of $100 each. Same rules, same everything, except the location. We played for 4 hours. Blake was off his game from the start. He made mistakes he wouldn't normally make. Called when he should have folded. Folded when he should have called. His timing was off. His bet sizing was weird. By the end of the night, Blake had lost $200. Not a catastrophic loss by any means, but notable because it was the first time in 6 months he'd lost more than $50 in a single night. Bad cards tonight, Blake said as he left, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. But it wasn't bad cards. I'd been paying attention to his hands. He'd had decent cards all night. He'd just played them poorly. It was like he was playing blind. The week after that, we played at my place. I live in an apartment building about 20 minutes from Blake's place. 2 bedrooms, decent-sized living room. I'd cleared off my kitchen table and bought new chips and cards just for the occasion. Blake lost again, $150 this time. He looked frustrated, kept checking his phone between hands, which he never usually did. Blake was always good about keeping his phone away during poker, but that night, he kept glancing at it, like he was waiting for a message that never came. He left early, claiming he had a headache. The 3rd week, we played at Carlos's place. His apartment was smaller than mine, but we made it work. Blake broke even that night, won a couple of small pots, lost a couple of others. Nothing dramatic, but his play was still off, still tentative. The 4th week, Tyler suggested going back to Blake's place. It's been a month. I think we've done the rotation thing. Blake's place is the most convenient since it's central to where we all live. Nah, Owen said quickly. Let's keep rotating. It's been fun seeing everyone's setup. Plus my wife's out of town again. We can use my place. Blake looked like he wanted to argue, but didn't. We played at Owen's again. Blake lost $180. That's when I knew for sure. It wasn't the cards, it wasn't variance, it wasn't skill. It was something about Blake's apartment. After the game ended and everyone else had left, I stayed behind to help Owen clean up. We stacked chips in silence for a few minutes. You noticed it too, right? Owen said. Yeah, he only wins at his place. So what do we do? I don't know, but I need to figure out exactly how they're doing it. I need to see that mirror angle for myself. Blake's not going to let us snoop around his apartment. No, but I have a key. Owen looked up sharply. You what? Blake gave me a spare key 2 years ago when he went on vacation. Asked me to water his plants and grab his mail. I never gave it back. That's technically breaking and entering if you go there without permission. I know, but I need to see it. I need to know if I'm right. Owen thought about it. When? Blake works downtown. He's in the office Tuesday through Thursday. I could go Tuesday afternoon, be in and out in 20 minutes. I'm coming with you. Owen, I'm coming. If we're going to do this, we do it together. And we document everything. Photos, measurements, the whole thing. If we're going to accuse Blake of cheating, we need ironclad proof. Tuesday afternoon, October 10th, Owen and I stood outside Blake's apartment building. My hands were shaking as I pulled out the spare key. Last chance to back out, Owen said. I need to know. We went inside. Blake's apartment looked different without people in it, quieter. The poker table was folded up and leaning against the wall. The chairs were stacked. The space felt bigger, emptier. And there, on the wall behind where I usually sat, was the mirror. It was even bigger than I remembered. 4 feet wide, 3 feet tall, in a thick brass frame. The kind of mirror you'd see in an expensive furniture store, meant to be a statement piece. Okay, Owen said, pulling out his phone. You sit where you normally sit. I'll go stand in the bedroom doorway where Stephanie would be. I sat down in my usual spot, held up my phone like it was a poker hand, cards facing me. Owen walked to the bedroom, opened the door just a crack, and positioned himself in the shadows inside. Can you see my phone screen? I called out. There was a pause. No, not from here. The angle's wrong. My heart sank. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe... Wait, Owen said. Hold on. I heard him moving around in the bedroom. Okay, now look up. Look toward the mirror. I glanced up at the mirror, and there, in the reflection, I could see Owen standing in the bedroom doorway. He was barely visible in the darkness, just a shadow behind the cracked door, but he was looking right at me, or rather, right at my reflection. Can you see my phone now? I asked. Holy shit. Yes, I can see it perfectly. The mirror reflects the cards of anyone sitting in that position, and probably the positions on either side too. We tested it. I moved to different seats. Owen stayed in the bedroom, watching through the crack in the door. From his position in the bedroom, Stephanie would be able to see the cards of 3 players, me, Mitchell, and Carlos. The 3 of us who usually sat on the side of the table facing the mirror. Owen, Tyler, and Blake sat with their backs to the mirror or at angles where the reflection didn't work. Their cards would be invisible from the bedroom, so she could see half the table's cards. I said, that's more than enough. If Blake knows what 3 players are holding, he has a massive advantage. He knows when to fold, when to bluff, when to value bet. He's playing with perfect information against half the table. But how is she signaling him? We've watched her. She's not doing anything obvious. Owen thought about it. Then he walked over to where Blake usually sat during games. He pulled out the chair and sat down. Check Blake's line of sight from here. I walked around the table, looking at what Blake would be able to see from his seat. The bedroom door was directly behind him, maybe 15 feet away. He wouldn't be able to see it during a hand without turning around, which would be obvious. But there was a small shelf on the wall to Blake's left. On that shelf was a picture frame. I walked over to it. The frame held a photo of Blake and Stephanie on vacation somewhere tropical. Beach background, both of them smiling. But the frame was positioned at an angle, not facing straight out into the room, but tilted slightly toward Blake's seat, and the glass on the frame was reflective. Son of a bitch, I said quietly. Owen came over. What? The picture frame. Look at the angle. Blake can see the bedroom door in the reflection of the glass. We tested it. Owen went back to the bedroom. I sat in Blake's seat. From that position, if I glanced to my left at the picture frame, I could see the bedroom door reflected in the glass. It was small, not perfectly clear, but visible. So Stephanie watches the cards in the mirror, Owen said slowly. Then she signals Blake somehow, and Blake can see her signals by looking at the picture frame. But what's the signal? We searched the bedroom. It didn't take long to find it. On Stephanie's nightstand, there was a small desk lamp, the kind with an adjustable arm and a focused beam. I turned it on. The beam was bright, almost like a mini spotlight. From the bedroom, with the door cracked open, that beam would be visible in Blake's picture frame. Stephanie could point it through the crack in the door, and Blake would see the light in his reflection. Different patterns, Owen said. Different flashes. That's how she's telling him what everyone has. I felt sick. We took photos of everything. The mirror from multiple angles. The sightlines from the bedroom to the mirror. The picture frame and its reflection. the lamp. We measured distances. We documented everything. Then we left. In the parking lot, Owen and I sat in his car, staring at the photos on his phone. "We have to tell the others," he said. "I know. Blake's been stealing from us for 6 months. I know. He's been looking us in the eyes every week and lying to us. I know." Owen's hands were shaking. "I want to kill him." "Get in line." But first, we needed one more piece of evidence. We needed to prove it was really happening, not just that it could happen. The next Thursday, October 19th, we went back to Blake's place for poker night. Blake seemed relieved, happier than he'd been in weeks, back in his element. "Good to be home," he said as we set up the table. I sat in my usual spot, but before the game started, I made a show of adjusting the mirror on the wall. "This thing is crooked," I said, tilting it slightly to the right. "Mind if I straighten it?" Sure," Blake said. I adjusted the mirror so it was facing a slightly different direction. Not so much that it would be obvious, but enough that the sight lines from the bedroom wouldn't work anymore. Then I sat down in a different seat. Not my usual spot in front of the mirror, but one of the positions where the mirror angle wouldn't matter. I quietly told Owen, Mitchell, Tyler, and Carlos to do the same. Mix up the seating arrangement. Don't sit where we normally sit. Blake looked confused, but didn't say anything. We played. Blake lost $220 that night, his worst loss in over a year. He kept glancing toward the bedroom, kept looking at the picture frame on the shelf. His timing was off. His reads were wrong. He was playing blind again. After everyone else left, I stayed behind. "We need to talk," I said. Blake was cleaning up, stacking chips in their case. "About what?" "About how you've been cheating us for 6 months." His hands froze. The chip he was holding clattered to the table. "I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos. The mirror, the bedroom door, the sight lines, the picture frame, the lamp. "I know what you've been doing. Stephanie watches our cards in the mirror from the bedroom. She signals you with the lamp. You see the signals in the picture frame. You've been playing with perfect information while the rest of us have been playing blind." Blake's face went from red to white in about 3 seconds. "I can explain." "I'm listening." He sat down heavily in one of the poker chairs. For a long moment, he didn't say anything, just stared at the table. "It started as a joke," he finally said. "Back in March, Stephanie noticed one night that she could see cards reflected in the mirror. She texted me about it during the game, just being funny. 'Hey, I can see Mitchell's cards, LOL,' that kind of thing. And I was down about $200 that night, having a bad run of cards, and then Stephanie texted me what Mitchell was holding, and I realized I could use that information. So you did, just that one time. I figured it wasn't a big deal. It was just one hand. But then I won, and then I thought, what if I tried it again, just one more time? And one time became 6 months. Blake's voice was barely a whisper. "Yeah, you stole $4,000 from your friends. It wasn't supposed to go on this long. I was going to stop. But then I was behind on rent, needed money for Stephanie's car repairs, and I figured just one more night. Then it became 2 nights, then a month. Then I couldn't figure out how to stop without everyone realizing something was wrong. So you just kept cheating us. I was going to pay it back. Eventually. I just needed to get ahead a little bit, and then I'd start losing on purpose, even things out. Bullshit. You had no intention of paying us back. You were going to keep taking our money until we either quit the game or figured it out." Blake didn't respond. I stood up. "Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow, I'm telling Owen, Mitchell, Carlos, and Tyler everything. We're going to calculate exactly how much each person lost over the past 6 months, and you're going to pay every single one of us back. In full. In cash. I don't have that kind of money. Then you'll get a loan. Sell your car. I don't care, but you're paying us back. Can't we just—" "No, there's no deal here. No negotiation. You cheated your friends for 6 months. You owe us $4,200 total. You have 2 weeks. Blake's eyes were wet. "Please don't tell everyone. Can't we just keep this between us? I'll pay you back, I swear, but does everyone need to know?" "Yes. They deserve to know. They trusted you. They came to your home every week and you robbed them. They deserve to know what kind of person you really are." I walked to the door. "I'm sorry," Blake called after me. I didn't turn around. "No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught." The next day, I called Owen first. Then we conference called Mitchell, Carlos, and Tyler. I explained everything, showed them the photos, walked them through the timeline. The silence on the call was deafening. Then Owen spoke up. "That "Yeah," I said. 6 months, Mitchell said quietly. "He looked us in the eye for 6 months." Carlos's voice was shaking with anger. "All those nights I drove across town to his place. All those times he won and I congratulated him. All those times I thought I was just running bad." "We need our money back," Tyler said. "All of it." We calculated exactly how much each person had lost over the 6-month period. We went through the spreadsheet game by game, adding up every loss. I was down $740. Owen, $820. Mitchell, $650. Carlos, $710. Tyler, $890, total, $3,810. Plus, we agreed Blake should pay an additional $400, $100 for each of us, as an asshole tax. For the time, for the gas money driving to his place, for the betrayal. Total bill, $4,200. We gave Blake 2 weeks to pay everyone back, in cash. He paid, took out a personal loan apparently, brought the money in envelopes to each person's house individually because none of us wanted to see him at the same time. None of us wanted to be in the same room with him. When he came to my place with my envelope, $840 in cash, he looked terrible. Thinner, pale, dark circles under his eyes. "I'm so sorry," he said. I took the envelope, counted the money. It was all there. "Don't apologize to me. Live with what you did." I closed the door. Stephanie texted me a week later. A long message explaining that she was leaving Blake, that she felt terrible about the whole thing, that Blake had pressured her into it and she'd felt like she couldn't say no. I didn't respond. I didn't believe her. You don't participate in a 6-month fraud operation because someone pressures you. You do it because you choose to. The poker game continued without Blake. We found a 6th player through Owen's coworker, a guy named Andre who worked in IT and was looking for a regular game. He was good, played honestly, and fit in well with the group. We rotated houses like we'd been doing during our investigation. 1 week at Owen's place, the next at mine, then Mitchell's, then Carlos's, then Tyler's, then Andre's. We kept a strict rotation schedule. Nobody hosted more than once every 6 weeks. Everyone's win rate normalized. Some weeks I'd win, some weeks Owen would win, some weeks we'd all lose to Andre. That's how poker is supposed to work. 3 months later, I ran into Blake at a coffee shop downtown. It was a Saturday morning and I was meeting a friend for breakfast. Blake was sitting alone at a corner table, staring into a cup of coffee that looked like it had gone cold. He looked worse than the last time I'd seen him. He'd lost weight. His clothes didn't fit right. He had the hollowed-out look of someone who wasn't sleeping. I considered leaving, pretending I hadn't seen him, but something made me walk over. "Can we talk?" Blake asked before I could say anything. I almost said no, but there was something in his face, not quite desperation, but close, that made me pause. 5 minutes. We sat at his table. Blake stared into his coffee cup like it held the answers to questions he was afraid to ask. "I lost everything," he said. "Stephanie left. Most of my friends won't talk to me. The loan I took out to pay everyone back. The interest is killing me. I had to move to a cheaper apartment. I'm drowning in debt. You brought this on yourself. I know. I wanted you to know I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not because I got caught, but because I did it at all. You guys trusted me, and I betrayed that trust. For money. For stupid money that didn't even matter. I didn't say anything. Wasn't sure what there was to say. I'm in therapy now," Blake continued, "trying to figure out why I thought it was okay. Why I kept doing it even when I knew it was wrong. My therapist thinks I have impulse control issues, maybe some gambling addiction stuff mixed in with regular greed. I don't know. Maybe I'm just an asshole. Maybe. I don't expect forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I see what I did now. I understand how fucked up it was, and I'm trying to be better." He pulled out a folded piece of paper from his pocket and slid it across the table. "What's this?" "A payment plan. I know I paid everyone back the money, but that doesn't cover the damage I did. Doesn't cover the trust I broke, so I'm paying for therapy, for anyone in the group who wants it, to help deal with trust issues or anything else that came from what I did." I unfolded the paper. It was a printout from a therapist's office, showing a prepaid account in my name for 10 sessions. I sent this to Owen, Mitchell, Carlos, and Tyler too. It's not enough. I know it's not enough. But it's something. I looked at the paper for a long time. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I looked at who I'd become and I hated it. Because I want to be someone who makes things right, even when it's too late. Because," his voice cracked, "because you guys were my friends. My real friends. And I threw that away for $4,000. He stood up, leaving his coffee untouched. "That's all I wanted to say. I'm not asking for anything. Not asking to be forgiven or let back in the game. Just wanted you to know I'm trying." He left. I sat there for a long time, staring at the therapy voucher. Part of me wanted to tear it up, throw it away, tell Blake to fuck off with his guilt money and his therapy vouchers. But another part of me thought about the sleepless nights I'd had after discovering the cheating. The way I'd second-guessed every friendship, every interaction, wondering who else might be lying to me. The way I'd started seeing betrayal everywhere, even in innocent situations. Maybe therapy wasn't such a bad idea. I ended up using 6 of the 10 sessions, worked through some stuff, not just about Blake, but about trust in general. About how to believe in people again after someone you trusted proves they're not who you thought they were. Owen took Blake up on the therapy offer too. Said he'd developed trust issues after the whole thing, had trouble believing people even in situations that had nothing to do with poker. The sessions helped him work through it. Mitchell went to a couple of sessions, then decided he didn't need more. Carlos and Tyler didn't go at all. Said they didn't need therapy to know Blake was a piece of shit and to be more careful about who they trusted. 2 years passed. The poker game continued every Thursday night. Andre became a regular fixture. We even added a seventh player for a while, Owen's cousin who was in town for work, but eventually went back to 6 when the cousin moved to another state. Blake tried to start a new poker game with different people, I heard through the grapevine. It didn't last. Someone in that group knew someone in our group. Word got around about what Blake had done, and people stopped showing up. I saw Blake one more time, 3 years after the poker incident. He was at a charity poker tournament I'd signed up for. The venue was a hotel ballroom downtown with dozens of tables and hundreds of players. All the entry fees went to a children's hospital. We ended up at the same table in the 3rd round. I'd made it through the first 2 rounds. So had he. We nodded at each other but didn't speak. The other players at the table had no idea we knew each other. Blake played honestly. I watched him carefully, looking for any signs of cheating. Any weird patterns or suspicious behavior? There was nothing. He played straight poker, made some good calls, made some bad folds, lost most of his chips in the first hour when he ran pocket queens into pocket kings. As he was leaving the table, busted out of the tournament, he stopped by my seat. "Good luck," he said quietly. I nodded. "You too." He hesitated like he wanted to say something else, then just walked away. I ended up finishing in 23rd place out of 200 players. Won $400 for the charity. Blake didn't place at all. But as I was leaving the venue that night, I thought about something Blake had said in that coffee shop 2 years earlier. About how getting caught had actually saved him from continuing down a path that would have destroyed more than just a poker game. I still didn't forgive him. Probably never would. What he did was calculated, sustained, and targeted at people who trusted him. That's not the kind of thing you just get over. But I could acknowledge that he'd tried to make it right. Not to get back in our good graces. Not to be friends again. But because he genuinely recognized he'd become someone he didn't want to be. That's worth something. Maybe not forgiveness, but something. The poker game still meets every Thursday. We're on year 6 now. Different faces. Andre's still playing. We have another new guy named Brian who joined last year. But the same spirit. We laugh, we bluff, we win and lose. And none of us ever put mirrors behind the table. Because we learned that the real game isn't about reading cards or playing odds or calculating pot equity. It's about trust. And once that's gone, no amount of money can buy it back. Sometimes I think about that mirror in Blake's apartment. How something so simple, so innocuous, became a tool for betrayal. How Blake had walked past it every day for 6 months, knowing what it represented, knowing what he was doing to his friends. I think about the picture frame with its reflective glass, angled just so. About the desk lamp Stephanie used to signal him. About the intricate system they'd built to steal from people who cared about them. And I think about the moment when it all came crashing down, when Blake's face went white as I showed him the photos, when he realized we knew. There's a lesson in all of it somewhere. About greed, about trust, about the slow erosion of character that happens when you make small compromises with your integrity. Blake didn't wake up one day and decide to cheat his friends. He took one small step, then another, each one easier than the last, each one justifying the next. That's how most betrayals work, I think. Not as single dramatic moments of treachery, but as series of small choices that accumulate into something monstrous. The poker game taught me to watch for those small choices, in myself as much as in others, to notice when something feels off, to trust my instincts, to investigate rather than assuming, to demand accountability when trust is broken, but also to recognize when someone is genuinely trying to change. Not to forgive, necessarily, but to acknowledge the effort. Blake's story didn't end with him riding off into the sunset, redeemed and restored. He's still dealing with the consequences of what he did, still trying to rebuild a life he destroyed over $4,000 and 6 months of lies. That's the real cost of betrayal, not the money, not even the loss of friendships. It's living with who you became, looking in the mirror, that metaphorical mirror, not the one on the wall, and seeing someone you don't recognize, someone you don't respect. Blake has to live with that every day. And in a way, that's a harsher punishment than anything we could have done to him. The poker game continues, every Thursday night. 6 guys sitting around a table, playing cards, drinking beer, talking trash. We've changed the rules since Blake. We rotate locations strictly. We use different decks of cards. We're more careful about who we invite into the game. We pay attention to things we used to take for granted, but we still play. Because poker, at its core, is about more than winning and losing. It's about reading people, understanding psychology, managing risk, making decisions with incomplete information. It's about competing hard but fairly, about respecting your opponents even as you try to take their chips. It's about those moments when you make a hero call based on nothing but instinct and you're right. Or when you pull off a bluff that should never work but does. Or when you lose a huge pot and your friends commiserate and buy you a beer because they've been there too. That's what Blake threw away. Not just the money, not just the friendships. He threw away the thing that made the game worth playing in the first place. The trust that everyone at the table is playing by the same rules, that everyone is who they claim to be, that the competition, however fierce, is honest. Without that trust, poker is just gambling, random chance, numbers on felt. With that trust, it's something more. A ritual, a bond, a test of character and skill and nerve. Blake failed that test. The rest of us passed, and every Thursday night we sit down at that table and prove it again. No mirrors, no signals, no schemes. Just 6 guys, a deck of cards, and the knowledge that we can trust each other with more than just money. We can trust each other with the truth. And in a world where that's increasingly rare, that's worth more than any pot we could ever win.